Good morning, everybody. Let's begin with a quick recap on how to convert a linear equation into two forms: slope-intercept form and standard form. So here's the first problem. They want us to write the equation in slope-intercept form for this equation. Now, this is already written in standard form, but they want me to manipulate it into this form. So, just to remind myself, my answer should look something like this, and I'll put quotations just for me, for my purposes. My answer should look like this: y equals my slope times my input plus my y-intercept. Having this as a guide, I'm going to slightly move this to the right, and I'm going to rewrite my equation as 4x plus 2y equals 10. Keeping in mind that I want to isolate y, I'm going to start by removing this term of x. So I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. I'm left with the 0 pair, and now I'm left with positive, and I don't need to put the plus, 2y equals 10 minus 4x, okay? Some of you might write it like this: negative 4x plus 10. It's still the same thing so long as our signs match our terms, okay? I just prefer it this way. I like having a positive as my first term, okay? Now from here, I'm left with 2y, and again, I want to isolate y and end up with this form: y equals my slope times my input plus my y-intercept. So since I'm multiplying 2 times y, or I have two y's, I'm going to split it up equally. So I divide both sides by 2. That means I divide each term by 2. This becomes a giant 1. I'm left with y equals 10 divided by 2 is 5. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2 times x. And that is my answer. So I've taken an equation from standard form into slope-intercept form, and it matches my guide. Okay? Next one. Again, always read the instructions because they might change from time to time, especially when you're doing practice problems. Write the equation in standard form. So we have this equation that's written in slope-intercept form, and they want us to write it, and we'll put the arrow, imply that they want us to change it to this form. My first term is a number, any number that A represents times x plus any number that B represents times y equals my constant. Okay, so I have to take this equation and make it look like that form. Okay, so that means all my variable terms are together and they're separated from my constant. My constant is by itself. Well, I know 13 is going to be my constant. So, and to begin, I'm going to rewrite, as always. I like rewriting things, a fresh start. I know this is a constant. Why is it a constant? Because there's no variable multiplied with this number. It's by itself. So I know that's going to be left alone. The only thing I got to focus on is this variable x. Well, it's positive x. So I'm going to make a 0 pair and subtract it from both sides. Now I'm left with y minus x equals negative 13. The next step here is, well, I'm done, right? Well, not necessarily, because it has to look like this, right? My first term has to be x. My second term has a variable y equals my constant. This is sort of flipped. So I'm going to rewrite this. And I'm going to write it as negative x plus y equals negative 13. Okay? Now, looks like I'm running out of space, but before I do anything else, does this look like this? Almost. Notice that this coefficient a, which here it's 1, it's positive, not negative. So I'm going to have to somehow eliminate this negative. Well, since I'm multiplying negative 1 times x, I'll divide everything out by negative 1. It'll change the appearance of my equation, but it won't change my answer, and that's key. So what am I going to do? I'm going to use a little color here. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 1. Notice every term is divided by negative 1, including its sign. I'm going to rewrite, and hopefully I can fit it in before it goes off screen. X minus y, right? Because positive y divided by negative 1, or positive 1 divided by negative 1 is negative, equals, that would be a positive. And now this looks exactly like my form, standard form. And that is my answer. Okay? And that's how you convert an equation from standard form to slope-intercept form, or an equation from slope-intercept form to standard form. Okay? All right, until the next time.